Thank you, everybody, for joining us for our session today on AI, cybersecurity, and governance. Very exciting title, but we'll try and make it as entertaining as possible. If you don't know who we are, we're RoundTable Technology, and we deliver managed IT services to nonprofits. That's who we are. That's what we do. We've been doing it for 15 years, and we love working with the sector. Jessica, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I've been with Roundtable for over a decade. My name's Jessica Peskay. I've been happily in three different roles at Roundtable. I was a project manager, then an account manager. Now I'm a solutions consultant. What that means is I just, talk to nonprofits if they're interested in connecting with us about our services. So I love talking about cybersecurity and tech. So I'm delighted that you are all here today.
Awesome. And my name is Justin King. I'm the Director of Revenue Operations. I have not been here quite as long as Jessica, but 4.5 years and counting. So,
You put in the time.
yeah. All right. So, housekeeping notes, which we have hit a little bit already, but questions and upvoting Q&A is enabled. So please ask your questions there. We'll do our best to get to all of them at the end. We also have upvoting enabled. So if you see a question that you would like answered, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button right next to it, and we will answer those in order of utmost upvotes. Chat is available, as also mentioned, for light heckling and comments to each other. No guarantees that we will see the chat, unfortunately, as we're presenting. And I think captioning is enabled. So if you need that, go ahead and turn it on. And if it is not, let us know.
Yeah, and regarding the chat, please feel free to introduce yourselves with your name and company, your name and organization, so that others know that you're here. We want to
Yeah,
connect later. Yeah.
absolutely. Uh, as important as what we're going to talk about is connecting you all to each other. Okay, so we are going to get started today with a 2026 reality check. As I was writing this title, I realized that we probably need a little less reality in 2026, but we're going to get through this quickly and get on to the good stuff. So, from our perspective on the IT and tech side of things, we see that there are roughly three forces right now in 2026 shaping the nonprofit sector. AI is probably the most obvious. Everyone is almost definitely sick of hearing about it, but it is important to talk about. And we're going to be talking about that a lot today because you can't not talk about technology in 2026 without AI. So we'll talk about some things you can do, some concerns and risks, and focus on how to think about it. But as it's integrated into everyday tools, it is hard to avoid these days. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your view, email platforms, CRMs, marketing platforms, Zoom right now has AI integrated into it. And so it is everywhere and pervasive in our lives. Your employees and staff are experimenting with even more tools. You got ChatGPT, Gemini, Copilot, and thousands of other third-party tools that I'm sure your more AI forward staff are already using. Cybersecurity, another, unfortunately, there are escalating cyber threats in 2026. This is nothing new necessarily. The cyber threats have been going up as we get more and more digital as a society. But with the advent of AI, they are getting more sophisticated and growing rapidly. So we'll get into that a little bit as well as what you can do to combat it. But unfortunately, they're getting more convincing. Phishing attacks are getting better. Ransomware attacks are impacting organizations of every size, and the nonprofit community is also being targeted more and more often. Third, in response to a lot of these threats or opportunities, with AI, the cybersecurity side of things, and just everything else going on in the world, growing governance demands is the third circle here that we see impacting the sector. Boards, funders, regulators, insurance carriers, your mailman, everybody, they're starting to ask what policies you have in place, what safeguards do you have, how are we protecting our sensitive information, and who is accountable. So we're going to talk about some updates to some of these things, what is really important to focus on, and hopefully some quick things you can do to start today. Kind of going on that governance gap side of things from the last bullet point, there is a particular problem that we're seeing in the nonprofit sector and really in all sectors when it comes to policies and oversight around AI. A lot of staff members can get really excited about AI. And while I'm sure you do have staff that are either fearful or concerned about some of the ethical, moral, and societal implications of AI, I'm sure you also have staff that are adopting it now and have been using it for a year, 2 years already, right? They're likely using it for drafting emails, summarizing meetings, brainstorming ideas, trying to save time on repetitive tasks. And most employees, dare I say all employees, are not trying to create a security problem with this. They're trying to do their work more efficiently, support your mission more efficiently, help more people, right? And so the issue here is not necessarily that they're using it or doing this. It's that most nonprofit organizations lack the policies and the oversight, and they're not keeping pace with AI adoption in their own organizations. You might have heard the term shadow IT, which is where you don't know all the different platforms and software that your staff are using. Very similar to that is shadow AI. I guarantee you do not know all of the AI tools that your staff are using on a day-to-day basis. And so what can help with that is having an AI policy, thinking about it, having an approved tools list, giving guidance to staff on what you can put into AI, what acceptable use looks like, data sharing rules. Can you put PII in ChatGPT? Is it, that's an organization to organization decision. And no training for staff on this is something else that we're seeing. So again, we'll get into that. I promise I only have like 3 more slides on doom and gloom, but we'll get through this quickly. What could go wrong without having these policies and governance and leadership in place? Obviously, you can have sensitive data exposed, right? This can be a larger issue, and if you don't have those use policies in place, could be already potentially happening. If you can have confidential notes entered into public AI tools. If you're using a lot of the free versions, they're training their models on your data. And that is a breach. That's bad, right? Some other things to look out for: financial fraud through impersonation attacks. So that the phishing, the deepfakes, we'll get into that later, but they are getting more sophisticated and just better. So you want your staff to be on the lookout for that. And something else that was, it was brought up a lot right at the advent of these large language models, but another big risk is misinformation. And so while these systems are getting better about that, that actually makes them more insidious almost. It's harder to catch if they're getting better. And as your staff trusts them more and they sound more and more convincing, they can still hallucinate and be inaccurate. So you always want to make sure you have human review. Otherwise, this can lead to incorrect information through everything that you're using AI for. Next up, as I mentioned, cyber risks are escalating. You can see in the graph to the side here, it might be a little small, but bar graph go up, right? So these numbers are in the trillions of dollars across all of the sectors in the United States. And the trend has been growing exponentially. And since the advent of AI, that has been exacerbated, right? So nonprofits are getting more increasingly targeted, as well as smaller organizations. Something we used to hear a lot was, we're small, we don't have a lot of money. Why would someone target us? So apart from just attacks of opportunity, now with AI and automation at the level it is, bad actors can just target, everybody. So they are. In addition to this, the recovery costs from trying to get back after an attack can be quite immense, and the downtime related to that can directly impact your mission. Where we see AI becoming more and more sophisticated, like I mentioned, specifically in its social engineering. And so social engineering is when a bad actor is trying to manipulate you based on information that you have out there on the web in order to do something. And so we're seeing AI-powered phishing become more and more prevalent, and AI can help people mimic the writing styles that you're used to, create believable impersonations, and generate realistic fakes for like invoices, pictures, whatever they need in order to get you convinced that they are who they say they are. And so when it comes to phishing, it used to be not easy, but there used to be some red flags that you could watch out for, right? You could look for spelling mistakes, you could look for grammar, suspicious formatting, weird addresses, stuff like that. Uh, those red flags are more and more disappearing, and these are going to look more and more realistic. They're going to sound professional. If they have examples of writing styles for whoever they're trying to impersonate, whether it's a vendor or one of your executives, they can match that style really, really well. And so we are seeing growth in this area, and more people are falling for it. In addition to that, deepfakes are getting really, really good as well. And so the difference between a phishing attack and a deepfake, the goal is the same. There's still social engineering, but it's going to be more on the audio and video side instead of an email. And if you've done any roundtable webinars before, you probably heard my own story. But I do a lot of webinars, and so my voice is out there. And some of these programs, they really only need a couple of sentences in order to spoof your voice, spoof your image. I have a lot more than that out there. This is going to be recorded too. So maybe 6 months ago now, my mother calls me at maybe 2:30 in the morning, and having just received another call from supposedly me. It wasn't my phone number, but she picked up, and it sounded exactly like me. They knew her name, they knew my name, and I was in trouble. I was asking for money for bail or whatever it was. I don't remember, but that was really scary for her and me. And luckily her phone came on and it was like, hey, this is likely spam. This is fake, and it was like blaring at her. But you got to think in that moment as a parent, you're not even taking a pause to think if this is fake. It sounds real, and you're just in fix it mode, right? And so that's what social engineering does, and that's what it preys on, is that fight or flight, that urgency. And they try not to let you think, not to let you breathe, so that you can't pause and think, is this real, or check a different way, right? So hopefully none of you experienced that. My family, we now have like a code word, so that we try not to put on in any digital media. So next time that happens, my mom can ask, hey, what's the code word? They're not going to know it, and we can move on. But all right, Jessica, what are the non-negotiables?
Yes, let's get into this. So in the face of all of this, what can we do? We're going to get into, in this section, the non-negotiables for organizations for cybersecurity protections. So on the next slide here, we've got our top 4 recommendations. The first one being multi-factor authentication everywhere. Turn it on everywhere. Backups, training, and verifying. So we're going to cover all of these on the following slides. So for multi-factor authentication, if we're honest, it can be mildly annoying, but it is so important to have running against your critical systems. For multi-factor authentication, you've got a secondary numerical code you need to enter into an account login page before you can log in. So it's just one additional step. At RoundTable, we beg you to get this in place on all of your critical systems, including your email and file sharing system, your financial system, your CRM, your cloud apps. In today's world, most software has this for you to enable. If you have accounts on these critical systems that are not protected, it's like locking the door to your house by just locking the screen door only. Someone can walk down the street and just kick that screen door in. So you need to lock your front door. So I see some operations folks in the chat. I'm wondering, is anyone experiencing resistance internally to setting up MFA? Is that something you're facing? If so, you can mention that in the chat and we can come back to that later. I was talking to someone yesterday, a nonprofit where the founder had downshifted to a consulting role and they refused MFA on their email account. And the account was breached last week. And this put a standstill into their entire operations while they cleaned up the mess. So it's important to not just, it's not just for your staff, but it's for every email account that you have. They should all be scrutinized for multi-factor authentication. Next, our next advice is to make sure that you have ongoing cybersecurity training running for your staff. This is really your best defense, because in Justin's section, he was talking a lot about the human side of things. And we are getting hit with all kinds of phishing attempts these days, and they're getting more sophisticated. So it's really important to stay up to date with training. We talked about verifying. So how should you verify? Security experts recommend that you engage with a pause and pivot method. Anytime you're getting, you have a message in front of you that is saying, this is urgent, or it's an unexpected message, you really should stop for 30 seconds to verify that request through a different channel. So that's called out of band authentication. But we like to just say verify, or as it is on my screen, verify. Did you get an unusual and urgent email from a colleague? Just walk down the hall and call them and ask them about it. Did you get a suspicious text? Don't click on it. Just resist. It's really hard in a text, but don't click on it. Go directly to that account or service and check for notifications instead. And as Justin was alluding to, with deepfakes on the rise, your organization, like Justin's family, can create a secret code word or phrase for your management team, your financial teams to use to verify the authenticity of a request, before making a change to a vendor payment. Ask for that secret code in an out-of-band channel.
Plus, that's just really cool, right?
It
You call them,
is.
you're like, what's the code word?
What's the code? In my family, we actually have had this for about 15 years, but we were joking about it in case the aliens came down and got us, we would have a secret code, but we didn't realize it would be actually useful. We were ready. Anyway, moving on, we're next going to talk about backups. Backups are another one of RoundTable's favorite topics, and it is an area where there's a lot of misconceptions. One of the biggest myths that we hear is, well, we use Microsoft 365, we use Google Workspace, so we're backed up automatically, right? Well, not necessarily. These major cloud platforms provide you with availability and redundancy, but that's not the same thing as a reliable, comprehensive backup. Backups are going to provide you with protection against a ransomware attack or accidental deletion by a staff member who that might have be discovered months after the fact. Organizations really need a comprehensive backup that includes backups with retention, a discussion of the recovery plan or the recovery path, and then maybe even some testing of the restore process, because a backup that's never been reviewed and tested is really just a theory. Restore testing really does matter. Your organization should know what data is backed up, how often your backups run, how long recovery is supposed to take, just so you know in advance, and who is responsible for that recovery in an incident. And your critical systems should typically be backed up every day. And some organizations might consider backing up more frequently depending on their operational needs. So you want to have a backup running for your financial system that can often come from the vendor. You want to back up donor databases, your email file sharing platform, your case management, and any other mission critical applications. So moving on, we've covered the top 4 recommendations from RoundTable, but I have a couple other concepts to bring forward for you. One is a good security culture. This is something we talk about at Roundtable all the time. And it's in order to develop a good security culture, you want to include this important mind shift. You want to make sure that you are never blaming people because mistakes happen. Mistakes happen every week where people are clicking links, people are opening fishy attachments, or responding too quickly. It can be that right message at the wrong time, and we're all susceptible. So the goal isn't perfection. The goal is actually in reporting and fast reporting. The most successful organizations that I know develop a security culture through many different approaches. Like, first, they're sending out short email reminders from time to time, reminding staff how to report an incident or reminding them about different types of phishing attempts. The organization is having short monthly trainings on cybersecurity. They might also be doing simulated phishing test emails that deliver to everyone's inboxes. And if anyone does click on links in those, they get a short training to remind them of best practices. And then beyond that, there are incident response exercises you can do. You can build an incident response plan and then do a fire drill of it and see how things proceed. You just want to have regular conversations about security so that employees feel free from the fear of being punished. You don't want them to delay in reporting issues because even gaining a few hours notice on an incident can really help mitigate the issue. Yeah, I mean, the bottom line is the faster issues are reported, the faster they can be contained. So Justin alluded to this earlier, but we're going to delve a little bit deeper into what it means to have an allow list and what that is. So this concept of an allow list is important when you're thinking about, say, AI tools as one category of software that your organization uses. If you have a list of approved AI tools, instead of being reactive and just trying to block every possible AI tool out there, organizations should try to get ahead of it and define for the staff which AI tools are approved, what use cases are acceptable, and what data they should and should not enter into the tool. This is going to provide them with a lot of clarity. And as Justin said, most employees are not intentionally violating policy when they're using ChatGPT at work, but usually they just simply don't know how to use the tools safely, which tools retain data, which tools are approved, and what information is restricted from those tools. So this allow list will reduce the confusion internally and also help you build out your AI policy.
All right. So we hope that everyone is still awake and we didn't bore you to death. But we do have a quick activity. So we're going to do like red, yellow, green. So like a traffic light. And we're going to give you a few potential use cases for AI. And I just want you to quickly tell me what you think the risk is in allowing your staff to use AI for this. So red, a lot of risk. Yellow, the potential, but maybe with some policy and process, it could be done. And then green is low risk. So hope everyone's ready. Let's put it in the chat. Or if there's like red green emotes, I don't even look. But anyway, let's put it in the chat. So first one is drafting social posts. Do we think the risk for drafting social posts using AI is red, yellow, or green?
And there's no right answer, really.
There's no right answer. Green. Okay. Brees. Yellow, yellow, green, green. Okay. All right. So I'm seeing mostly greens and yellows, no reds. And green as long as you check it. Great, Brees. So based on the chat, we're a little, some people say yellow, some people say green. But the point we want to drive home with this activity is that there is absolutely nuance. Every organization is going to be different. And so as we go on for the next couple of examples, let's pretend that we have now set up an AI use policy. and we're using mostly approved tools, unless the case says otherwise. And moving forward, let's go to the next one. What about writing grant applications? Do we think this is red, yellow, or green? Yellow, red, yellow. Okay. Yellow. Yeah.
So there's more caution here.
Yep. Yellow if using approved tools. Okay. Yeah. So again, I think there's no wrong answers, right? So this is kind of where your risk tolerance is as an organization and the policies you have around this. I think, yeah, probably red and yellow on this one. I don't think I saw any greens. I would agree with that. There needs to be a lot of boundaries when it comes to something like this. And we'll get into it a little bit later, but I would imagine for writing grant applications, I would tend to skew on AI is helping with framework, helping with polishing, but you have a very human aspect to doing this as well.
Which is really exactly what Bree said just now in the chat.
Definitely. Okay. What about entering donor data into ChatGPT? Are we cool with this? There we go. Okay. Red from everybody that I see. Yeah. So most times I would probably say red. You can there are ways to get ChatGPT to not train its model on your donor data, but if we want to just be safe, probably red. And you can still get a lot of use out of tools like ChatGPT through anonymization of data, which make it safer to use, and you can still get that efficiency. All right, what about summarizing notes from a meeting, say a board meeting? Green. Yellow. Yeah, yellow, green. Okay. Double check. Yeah. This one is probably something that a lot of you are already doing, right? So if you're using Zoom, Fathom, Otter, whatever the note-taking tool is, I imagine a lot of you are doing this already. So with policy in place, with checking the whatever tool you're using, security page, and making sure that they are not training using your data, stuff like that, this could likely be a green or a yellow, depending on the organization.
You might
All
also
right.
want to think about with those tools how long the tool is retaining your data and seeing if you can set any retention rules around that. Like this data should disappear after 6 months or something like that.
Yeah, that's an amazing point. Yeah. Okay, this is our last one. So automating an approval process for mission services. So this is very relevant to the organization, but like your all application process selection and approval, automating it through some kind of AI tool. Yeah. So I think for me, this would probably skew towards red. Again, depends on the organization, but there is some inherent bias to think about when using AI tools. And I would never fully automate an important process without some human level of checking at each step, right? You can even get in trouble if you're automating the application review fully and then you're just checking on the next step because you might miss some things through that bias in that main pool. So just a lot to think about, and that's kind of what we were trying to get across here. All right, so we hit a lot today. Jessica had some good tips on the cybersecurity side, but when it comes to AI, what do you do? What are our recommendations? First off, I want you to try out what you have. The current economic environment is interesting right now. What is the focus of this session? If you're currently away from your screen, you should probably fill this out if you want hours. But anyway, start with what you have. In the current economic environment, we want to go with cheap first, right? So cheap but safe. So if you're a Microsoft shop, a Google shop, which most of you are going to be, did I close it? Did it, Paul? No, we're good. Okay. We recommend that you try out Copilot or Gemini first. And that's what you learn on as you're just getting started. One caveat, Microsoft has been shifting away from a focus on the nonprofit sector of late. I don't know if any of you have noticed the removal of some discounts, stuff like that. But we are only really recommending that you start with Copilot as the free option if you're already in the Microsoft ecosystem. before potentially moving on to something else if you want to like be a little bit more sophisticated about your AI use. Microsoft does use good models. The problem here is that they're locking everything inside their ecosystem. It makes it a little hard to work with. Additionally, with that lack of focus on the sector. Google's AI, on the other hand, is it's similar to Salesforce. It's a powerful platform that you can build on with a lot of different things. And they are also less expensive than Microsoft in overall. So we recommend that for the next step in your AI journey, looking into Claude, which is Anthropic's model. They've been in the news a lot. They're one of the better options as well, or Gemini for your AI program.
And you can use Google's tools even if you are a Microsoft shop. The advantage, though, of starting with the tools that you have in your tenant is that there is that protection. You don't have to worry about data leakage. You still want to talk about how the tool should be used and what should be in it, but you have that protection of, there's a fence around your domain and your data.
Definitely.
So we recommend, and I know you've been hearing this a lot, but that a good first step is developing an AI use policy to keep your organization's intellectual property private, to keep your constituent and donor data private, and to keep your employee data private. Your staff need to understand how to safeguard this information. So if you're using a tool within Microsoft, you want to make sure that your access controls are set up, for example, so that employees can't search on the salaries of all the other employees at your organization. You want to do some testing of the tool and how it's behaving before you roll it out. And like Justin said earlier, if you're using an AI tool for free, you're giving away your data. So that just really can't be something that you're doing with work data. So getting that policy done, critical step. But other than the policy, how do you get started? The current AI tools that we mentioned, Google's suite of tools, Microsoft's Copilot, Claude Enterprise, these are different from all other technology. These are like an open field for your staff to play within and experiment with it. And that's the wonderful positive side of AI. It can really unlock a lot of capability for your organization. It can also help you be more efficient. So you need to decide which business processes might benefit from using one of the available tools. What's a really repetitive process that if you could speed it up for your staff would give them additional capacity to do the things that they love, talking to constituents, running your programs. So you want to decide as you're rolling all this out, where AI governance is going to live. And I want to say that it's really less of an IT responsibility than you may think. To really move people inside an organization to start adopting AI, or this might be one person who's providing this leadership, or you might want to consider forming a group of people to provide this leadership because it really does require a unique combination of skills. You need someone who's leading on AI to have enough technical skill to use it fluently and have an interest in it, and also a desire to stay current with it. So if you have someone like that in your staff, that is great. You also need to be doing some business process analysis. And then maybe you need to add in someone who understands how your staff can be trained on all of this. Someone with learning and development experience, someone who understands how to develop your staff. And then, of course, there's the IT governance piece. And that's just one part of the puzzle. So your IT team or your IT vendor should be involved as well. But it needs a lot more than that to get it rolled out. Oh, that is still me. Sorry for the pause. So yes, we just wanted to underline that you'll need to keep working on your AI policy it's frustrating. You'll get it done, but then you really should plan on revisiting it 6 months later because everything's changing so rapidly.
Definitely. All right. Before we get to Q&A, I know we're running out of time. We do want to take a pause here. We've talked a lot about using AI, about the efficiency it can help your organization with. But another really important consideration is maintaining your voice. Only your organization can decide, whether to use AI or not, and how to use it, the ethical considerations, the moral considerations, and all of that. So we recommend doing your best to stay authentic. AI is great at getting rid of the blank page problem to help create first drafts, to outline, maybe polish a little bit, brainstorming ideas as someone to just bounce stuff off of, and it's good for starting points. But with all organizations, but nonprofits especially, personality is what comes through. And as more and more organizations and corporations use AI, they're going to start losing that personality. And so we don't want that for you. We want your staff to care about the authenticity, mission connection, human stories, and the emotional side of being a nonprofit. So AI can help with efficiency, but make sure that you still have humans involved to add that emotional nuance, to make sure you're verifying accuracy, aligning the tone of whatever you're doing with your mission, and just trying to do your best to reflect that organizational culture. So, last point of the day. We also wanted to mention we have just started RoundTable, a nonprofit community, and our goal here is to connect nonprofits to each other, really. And so we want you to learn alongside other nonprofit professionals, share experiences, tips, and build safer habits together, not just when it comes to technology, but in every aspect of what you do. So we'll put this link in the chat, but if you want to check it out and see what it's about, you can go to roundtabletechnology.com/community. And if you happen to be a Roundtable member already, you do get access to this. So you can just talk to your account manager. And I think we got some time for questions, about 7 minutes. So let's stop that screen share and see what we got. Oh, there we go. We got a question in the chat. Do you have any recommendations for phishing simulation software? So Jeffrey, are you in our community? That is a very familiar name. If so, I'm going to email you after this because you actually have access to some phishing simulation software. But we use something called FinSec, and as part of our community, you actually get access to phishing simulations every month, in addition to cybersecurity awareness training. There are other good ones out there, of course. We also have can you share the link for the NFP roundtable? Yes, absolutely. I will put that in chat.
While Dustin's doing that, I can pick up on the questions. So Paula asks, how do you suggest managing one loud voice in the org who is anti-AI from an ethical standpoint, environmental, yet the rest of the org sees its use case? Yeah, there are many objections people bring with AI, and it's important to work through their feelings because they're valid. There are a lot of concerns out there. I do know of a tool where you can review the AI tasks that you're doing and kind of see how it equates to other things like how many queries equate to running the dishwasher, and that can help give some context on the environmental impacts. And let's see, I can follow up with you after, Paula. Why don't you? I'm going to put my LinkedIn, and you can connect with me if you're interested in that.
Yeah.
Justin, I'm going to pass things over to you.
Absolutely. No, that's a difficult conversation to navigate. But okay. We also have a question on, do you offer any information on Claude? We'd be happy to talk to you about it, but there's a lot of good training out there on Claude if you are interested. But I don't think we specifically have any Claude specific trainings at the moment. All right. Any other questions? I believe we can. If you want to raise your hand, we can unmute if you want to just ask us your question. Otherwise, we'll give it a couple more minutes, throw it in chat, or throw it in Q&A. Or, you can always email us at outreach@roundtabletechnology.com, and we are happy to answer any questions. Yeah, of course. We're happy to be here. Glad it was useful. Hope you took a few nuggets that you can start on soon. Starting today is better than starting tomorrow. Okay, I don't see any more questions, so I think we can probably go ahead and end out. Thanks, everybody. We will catch you next time. Enjoy the rest of the conference. Bye.
Everyone, thank you.